recording now? This all been... Fucking love it.
Welcome back to another segment on this podcast evening
Welcome back.
My Joe's studio.
It's My Joe now, not Mojo.
My Joe.
Thank you, Main Joe.
Yeah. So we were just doing our chill session, having a podcast that wasn't recorded, essentially. Because what is a podcast but a conversation?
That's all it is.
So Shy Joe is from Michigan. And I know the auto industry up there is basically... I don't think they've completely vacated Michigan.
It's not dead.
It's not dead, but it's way less than it was. And I'm just kind of... I want to hear Shy Joe's... he's from Michigan, so I want to know kind of how he views that whole situation, how it went, how he feels like it went down. Unions good, unions bad. Auto industry moving.
Well, and bear in mind, Shy Joe was not alive when Michigan essentially produced every bomber that was used in World War II. He wasn't alive back in those days. You know, this is a different day that we're in now. Economics, GM has made decisions, and our politicians have made decisions about how things are going to go.
Right.
So the current situation.
And a lot of people, I know business people that despise unions. And I know unions have a purpose, and they can be good, but they can also be as corrupted as any corporation.
Indeed. Main Joe, I remember seeing some union membership application form where it said that some number of dollars was going to come out of every one of your paychecks and go to the Democratic Party. Not the Republican Party, the Democrat. So there are corruptions there too. Yeah. There in the unions, there are corruptions.
And the Democrats don't seem to support unions anymore. And I have a friend who's he's a aircraft mechanic, and they're unionized. And he's their union contract has been under negotiations. I could be wrong on this, but from what I gather, it's been like 2+ years that they've been negotiating this contract. So he's basically working without a contract for this union. Mm. And he says, eventually I'll get a lump sum payment, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't seem too worried about it, but, I mean, come on. 2 years? What the fuck? Something's wrong there.
Extra interesting, Main Joe, because our friend Shy Joe had a conversation at a jam where you were not present with J. Joe. And I believe that his interpretation, his viewpoint on unions was impacted. It might have been challenged. Things
let's turn the mic over to Shy Joe.
Shy Joe.
Where he comes from.
Well, first Michigan. He comes from Michigan and
practically a union capital.
Yeah, isn't that where they started?
Back in the day, unions were huge. Michigan? Unions are what established the middle class in America, and largely due to...
they gave us weekends and 5-day work weeks.
8-hour days.
And 8-hour days and no child labor.
Paid vacation.
Yes. The unions did serve a purpose. Where do they fit now?
Right. And my little brother and I actually found Jimmy Hoffa's bones in a shed behind a church where we
I love it.
Oh, but no, I did have a change of heart, and I've had a change of heart. I'm not about other things like the death penalty and things like that too. And I think this might surprise you, because as a, I guess, conservative Republican, we hate the labels, right? We were talking about that.
Labels.
But that's where I lean, and I always kind of grew up thinking, even in Michigan, that unions were trouble for a lot of companies.
Trouble.
Yeah.
A lot of headlines, a lot of mischief.
Yeah. Well, you've read the same headlines.
Yes.
It's nothing new, but I think that a lot of the problems, I was thinking a lot of the problems that like GM has had is because you've got these unions that are so strong, pensions, and I actually have uncles that I love that for a large part of my childhood weren't working but still getting a paycheck every every 2 weeks
because of unions.
Because they were in a union.
Well, that's a pension. Is that not retirement?
Or disability pay or something?
Hey, I mean, that's great. That's great if I'm a union member, and I think I've just looked at it from the eyes of the business owner, the corporation. Like, well, these guys are kind of killing us.
Why was he still getting a paycheck though?
Why? Because they negotiated those things. The unions were powerful and negotiated those things with the corporations.
But he wasn't working. He was not working.
For much of the time, not he. Like I can name 2 uncles that were laid off for a large part of my childhood. And not working.
Laid off?
Yeah, laid off just means.
So is this unemployment insurance then? Nothing to do with the unions. Is more of
it was the
state
unions
thing?
demanded to be paid even when the plants weren't profitable. They were still getting paychecks. So
people were still able to put food on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Exactly. And so you just maybe are kind of leading me into this. What I was going to say is I just thought it's tough. For a large part, I think the unions are the reason that GM and the big 3 are not competitive and can't be malleable and adjust through different competitive situations. And
That's an interesting charge.
Japanese are kicking our ass.
That's an interesting charge.
All these major
Give us evidence
expenses.
for it. Here's some evidence.
Well, you're paying people not to work. You're paying people that aren't working for you. That's fairly,
how widespread is this? Are they paying thousands of employees who aren't working for them?
Oh, I think definitely at least thousands. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the GM is essentially a socialist,
plants would shut down.
It's a welfare industry. It's not
Plants
really
would shut down for months and
doesn't really make cars.
not produce anything, but every single employee was still getting paid. Every union worker was still getting paid. And so that just makes it tougher, I think. I've always thought, at least for a company like GM to compete.
They still make cars, though, right? GM still makes cars.
They still make cars.
They have a lot of employees who do show up to work every day. They do have that.
Uh-huh. Well, if not for a bailout, maybe not. If not for a government bailout.
Well, that was 10 years ago. That was 10 years ago.
No,
today,
I don't care when it was. I don't care when it was.
Is GM making a competitive product, would you say?
No. They're not competing. And they're not doing very well right now, as I understand. But I have had a conversation with a friend of ours, mutual friend of ours, who said that her husband was a union worker for like 12 years for one company. I worked for one company for 14 years, and I was not part of a union.
There was no union offered or allowed. They wouldn't allow a union.
I've never been a union member.
I've never have either.
There was not even an option, and no pension. No, if your company was sucking balls and they had to shut down for a couple months, you still get paid. None of that. That never happened actually, but she told me that well, it's a her, but she told me her husband basically has her house here in Utah. They have a home in Michigan, but the house here in Utah is paid for by her husband's union pension. And so they have, and by the way, we've all been to that house. It's a fucking nice house.
It's a great house.
Right?
It's a great jam house.
Nice
great
house.
Jam house, yeah.
But they have that house here in Utah. They ski, and also they travel around. They travel and they do great things, and that's all because her husband was a union member. And I think maybe, hey, it's nice for the workforce to be a little stronger, be a part of a union, and it's kind of changed my thought.
This leans a little bit against your conservative viewpoints,
sure,
doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It challenges you.
Yep.
And that's what we're here for.
But also, conversely, look, Michigan. voted Republican. They did. They actually did. They voted for Donald Trump.
Anti-union.
Anti-union.
Yeah.
And so that it's complex. It's complex.
Well,
It does.
and that whole thing that went down in Wisconsin kind of just blew me away too. I mean, basically they're trying to get rid of unions, and it was way unpopular. But then when it came time to try and get rid of the governor, they couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it. It's an
So,
amazing thing.
It's very confusing. Yeah, I don't know.
You know what
man.
it comes down to, Main Joe, is under Clinton.
Mhm.
Under Clinton, this is not blaming him at all. I'm not
Okay.
blaming
Yeah.
him. It was under Clinton when 100 million Chinese people were lifted out of poverty.
Yeah. Well,
Globalization started then. That's when it began. We're not blaming Clinton. He was clueless about it. But now we have to face the fact that we are global. We are global.
you know, and it's interesting. Yeah, we lifted these people out of poverty, but things still aren't great for them. I mean, you think about these people building our iPhones in
You're right.
China,
You're
and
right.
jumping out of windows because
They're not
they
as
can't
great as
deal
they are
with it
for you and
anymore.
me, are they?
But they're not living in poverty, but they want to kill themselves. So you can go figure if
They
that's a good thing or not.
They
but-
live in cages,
And then
essentially. I saw
Also,
it.
I mean, like I said, I'm kind of we talked about this a little bit before we started this segment. I'm a little bit of a Michael Moore fan, and he was saying that when these companies left Michigan, these car companies, they were basically profitable, but they wanted to be more profitable, is kind of why they
fair
closed
enough.
up shop.
Fair enough.
And I've also
Yeah.
heard, like, there's new car plants, Toyota assembles cars in Tennessee, I think it is.
Marysville, Ohio, and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
and
Marysville.
And that's not the only place they assemble
Yeah.
these cars. They do it in other countries. And in every other country, they're unionized except for the United States.
Great question, Main Joe.
It's
And-
just, I
and
just don't
let's-
know how to feel about unions. It's on
Yeah,
the one
man.
hand, they served a purpose. Are they still needed? Bernie promotes unions a lot. He's pretty
Well,
pro-union, but man,
we-
unions
we
can
know
get corrupt. They can make
They
crazy
can be corrupt
demands.
as shit. Yes, they could be
Demands
really
that
corrupt.
They just aren't plausible.
When they were first introduced, unions served a great cause.
They don't
purpose.
exist for no reason.
They gave us, like we said, the weekend
The
and the
people
5-day
needed
work
a
week and
voice.
the 8-hour work
The
day. They
people
gave
needed
us
a
those
voice.
things.
Yeah.
What are they doing now today?
I wonder.
What are they really doing today? I don't know.
I-
Listeners, let us know.
The Democrats really aren't supporting him much anymore. Bernie is, but Democrats in general sure aren't.
I
And,
didn't know that. I didn't know that.
What?
That Democrats in general weren't.
Well,
or
where
less,
was
maybe
Obama
less,
during
maybe
the whole
less
Wisconsin thing? He was nowhere to be found. He didn't have a peep to say about it.
supportive? Huh. I didn't know that. Wasn't aware.
Well,
It's interesting though.
It is interesting. I really don't know what to make of it. So do you think the unions are, you kind of feel like the unions were the downfall of the auto industry in Michigan, though, in general?
I think they were a major contributor.
I've heard that from other people too, but Michael Moore doesn't seem to share that thought. I don't know why
Yeah.
that is, because his father worked for a
Well, Main Joe, let's
a
go back to
unionized job in
the
Michigan
question
and all
you
that.
raised earlier.
Yes.
When they decided to close up shop in Michigan
Yes.
and move to Mexico,
yes.
they were profitable at the time they did
that
this.
was my understanding. And Michael Moore's
Let's
beef is
find out.
that
Let's find out.
his
Yeah.
beef is that these jobs are a national resource like oil and stuff, and you don't just get rid of a resource like that. These jobs should stay here because
You utilize it. You put
yeah,
it
and
in more
that kind of
profitable
resonates with me a
places.
little bit.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, it all comes down still to were they profitable in Michigan when they closed up shop and moved to Mexico?
Yeah, it
Were
kinda-
they still making money?
Yeah.
Were they still profitable at that time? And they had to have political support to close up shop and move.
Yes.
They had to have
channels.
politicians in their
Channels
pocket.
had to be opened.
Yes, absolutely. Permits had to be approved, and were they still profitable? But again, I mean, Apple was doing it, and Google and Amazon, they were all moving down there. Maybe this was before their time, but still, maybe they were just forward thinking that we're going to make a lot more money if we make our cars in Mexico now. we're going to make it. Labor costs are going to go way down.
Yeah, you know, and I was in manufacturing for a while after I graduated from college, and kind of the impression I got is that we were like the manufacturing plant that worked out all the bugs. We came up with the test equipment, you know, we designed it and built it ourselves, got the lines working, and then we just shipped that product off to Mexico.
You know,
Toyota calls that Lean Six Sigma. Have you ever read about that?
No.
Oh yeah. Toyota has a whole. It's really cool. It's really cool stuff that you can read about that Lean Six Sigma. I just had a thought as you guys were talking about. I don't know. We're all old enough to remember the NFL strike.
Yes.
The players' union.
They're talking about an NHL
and the baseball strike.
I
remember that one.
Yeah. Well, the
Interesting.
one that sticks out to me the most was the NFL strike.
Yep.
And the league owners, it's totally different, but they're like, fuck you guys, we'll just bring in some scabs and they'll play football.
I remember that.
People will show up, and they did.
Yeah, they did.
People showed up, and people kept watching on TV.
Yeah.
And then the union players union, whatever it was called, they were like, well, we should get back, put our shoulder pads back on and start playing. Because I don't know, where does the power lie?
This goes back to the question, Main Joe, Shy Joe, is I think we can all agree on two things. That unions did serve a moral and good purpose at one time. What are they doing now? There's the next question.
I think that's you just hit the nail on the head. I think there's a time and a place for unions. Is now the time?
Don't know.
Or are unions just simply too corruptible? Because where there's money, there's power.
Well, we know
and everyone's paying union dues. There's money there.
And a portion of your paycheck goes to the Democratic National Committee. That is
personally,
wrong.
I think they're stupid if they're still doing that because they ain't getting the support from the Democrats anymore. Not that I see.
They served a great purpose. You know, just like the Republican Party under Lincoln when he was trying to free the slaves and win the Civil War. The Republican Party served a great purpose at that time. Maybe not so much anymore. Maybe not so much today.
Okay, and then that gets us back to another topic we talked, I think, about in the last segment, you know, where you just have the two parties. When Lincoln was the head of that Republican Party, when he won the election, that was the first year of existence of that party.
He won it twice.
That was the first year.
Yes.
That party did not exist. He started it.
He was
and I was
going
to say, you know, we on the national level, it seems like we just have this Republican Democrat choice and that's it. But I've seen in other states, like in Minnesota, Jesse the Body Ventura, didn't he win under independent? And wasn't Bernie independent mayor of a city in Vermont? It can happen on the state level where that's not quite, it's not quite as locked in as two-party system. It just seems like it's on the national level, the two-party system seems unbreakable. But we just got done saying Lincoln, he did it. It can be done if you have a powerful enough personality and
if you're a leader.
And policies that people are on board with. You know?
So the question becomes, do you want to be a leader who supports the abolition of unions or the strengthening of unions? Why is that such a question now? Which one?
I think the unions shot themselves in the foot. Essentially, I mean, if you can't get a contract done in 2 fucking plus years of negotiating with the whatever airline industry they're doing, these airline mechanics, I mean, something's wrong there. I mean, what are they doing?
I have to look back after having that conversation with our mutual friend, because I worked for one company for 14 years. What if I was a part of a union?
Yeah. Pensions are nice, man. Retirement is nice. I wish I could retire now. I have a friend who did 20 years in the military, and then he did 20 years as a law enforcement officer, so he's got 2 pensions coming in. He's my age, and he's essentially retired. He works part-time. He goes fishing a lot.
Yeah.
How nice would that be?
But would that company be as successful?
Yeah, we're talking public fish. We're talking military, and we're talking police department, which I guess is a public... I don't know what you call that.
Utility
stuff. Yeah, it's all government stuff. Yeah.
Well, and today, your average firefighter in America has a great retirement
Nice
system
pension.
set up.
Okay,
nice
that's
pension, great benefits.
Nice,
You know,
yeah.
you're
I wish
set.
I had one,
Me too.
but I don't know.
Me
if,
too.
Yeah, I don't know if corporations can afford that, but
Well, they can't. No, that's why they elect Republicans to defeat unions.
well, that doesn't mean
You
they
gotta
can't
defeat 'em.
afford it. That just means they don't want to pay it.
And that's why they...
They see this big wad of money sitting there, and it's all for pensions. And they're like, I want that money. I want to get my fingers on that money. I want, and so
Exactly
they've got
right.
ways of doing it. I think that was part of the whole plot in Wall Street, that movie we mentioned earlier when we were talking about cell phones. That's what they were doing. They were like cutting down these companies, taking those pensions, putting it in their pocket, and say, "Sorry,
That's
guys,
right.
the company went out of business. So sorry."
Yeah, in the movie, I think it was called Blue Airlines, wasn't it? It's Charlie Sheen's dad, Martin Sheen, owned Blue Airlines, and by far the biggest meaty cash crop was the retirement fund, the pension fund for all these workers that have been there for 20 plus years. That was the meat. That was, let's go grab that. Let's go get it. Enron did the same thing.
Yep.
They did the same
I
thing.
feel so sorry for those people.
Oh, man. There are linemen out there who climb up poles every day.
Well,
Who,
They're strong union workers, those linemen. Yeah.
yeah, and they got fucked because their union got disemboweled. They had no power at all.
Well.
There was the union guy in that documentary, Enron, smartest guys in the room. Please look it up on YouTube.
yeah, I'll have to.
And before the collapse, before Enron went under, he had a retirement package worth about $400,000. By the time that Ken Lay and the other guy, Jeff Skilling, got done with it, it was worth $1,200. And those guys were flying high, and that guy, this guy who had been a lineman for 20 years, was fucked.
Yeah.
He had nothing to do, and he might have been part of a union. I don't know. I don't even know that much. But if he was part of a union, it had zero power to do anything about his retirement.
Yeah.
Zero.
It's gone.
Yeah, poof, overnight. You know, it's
Different end of the scale. There's a lot of security in the thought of it.
Yeah.
I remember that I worked for a company while I was really young, just newly married before I started my family, and I did the stock purchase program. And they flew all of us sales guys out to Chicago and
Wow.
had a senator come talk to us.
Wow.
And it was really
Politics.
just telling all of us, to invest a large portion of our paychecks to this company, and I did. My wife and I decided.
Was it Comp
at
Health?
the time? No. It was called Access Long Distance at the time.
Oh.
And I don't mind
Sounds
saying
familiar.
that the person's name is Scott Kate that fucked us all over. I don't mind saying that.
No
He was
marker
the
needed.
owner of the
No
company. No
marker.
marker.
Wow.
So a lot of us, like 1,200 salespeople, were investing a lot of our huge portions of our paycheck, thinking we're listening to this senator, we're all going to be rich, And then we all got mailed bankruptcy, bankruptcy letter from such and such Iowa. Your money's not good with us anymore. But Scott Kate, can I mention that name again? Scott Kate cashed out on that before all the
course.
shit went down.
Was he living in the Bahamas now?
Oh,
Just
has
like
his,
Enron.
has his own
I
island?
can show you where his house is over here. It's one of the biggest mansions in Utah.
Wow.
But yeah, that kind of stuff is dirty too. Maybe
Yeah,
if there was
It's so funny.
a union, we
is
could
funny.
have been a little
Well-
bit stronger about that shit. And-
I was driving down Foothill Boulevard the other day with we're going to our friend's house to do the jam. Beautiful houses on the foothills of these mountains, just mansions. They're gorgeous places. I mean, I'm like, who the fuck lives there? So I asked a friend of ours, Czech Joe, who lives in these houses, because he kind of lives in that area. He's a doctor. His wife's a doctor, so they do all right. And he says, bankruptcy, man. Bankruptcy.
Jeez.
At first I thought he was joking, but after hearing your story, I'm thinking, holy
Yeah.
fuck.
Yep.
Main Joe, I should have sold this house back in 2007. I could have sold it for $500,000 and then bought it back 8 months later for $200,000 easily.
That was some crazy times,
That
man.
was nuts.
Yeah, my wife and I were looking for houses. We were thinking about moving right about that time, and we just, for some reason, we got cold feet, and a month later, the economy collapsed.
Mhm.
We're so thankful we didn't take the dive, you know.
Yeah,
And you know
would've
what?
got
Unions
lots of
unions had
Yeah.
no part of that, did they?
No.
It was
No.
not due to
No, it wasn't
unions.
due
It
to
was due
unions.
to corporate greed. They knew what they were doing by putting these loans together, these home loans that they knew were going to default. They knew what they were doing.
Some people
They
made
just
bank on
didn't
it.
care.
Some people saw it coming and betted against
Yes,
it and made bank.
We're talking that movie now, The Big Short. You remember that movie, The
No.
Big Short?
Yeah.
Christian Bale and
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling and Steve Carell, maybe his best role ever.
Wow.
They explained very well
It was a
exactly
great-
how this
yeah,
happened.
you-
I've
you
got
haven't
some
seen
movie
it,
watching
you
to
gotta
do.
watch that. That's
man.
good.
Okay, The
Yeah.
Big Short.
And
Let's-
the opening narration was, well, how did they know? They looked. They took a look at what was going on with these mortgages and these teaser interest rates that double after the first 12 months, and your payment goes from
And-
$1,600 a month to $5,600 a month.
And wages
you know.
not going up.
Yes, yeah, that too.
Yep,
that
big.
too.
And
Big.
people stretching themselves. People,
Yep.
you know, it's...
That's interesting because Kamala Harris, this Democratic candidate, is proposing. Well, she's talked about reparations and stuff, but more specifically, she's talked about. I can't remember what the amount it is. Billions of dollars to go to black families for down payments on houses.
I hadn't heard that.
To me, that sounds I saw her speech about that. To me, that sounds like the subprime. She's saying these people can't afford down payments for their houses, so let's give them money for down payments on their houses. That sounds exactly like the subprime market that blew our economy up one time.
This sounds worse to me. Sounds much worse than
and
that.
also racist.
Yeah,
it also
yeah. Let's
because
give them homes.
Because if I
Let's give somebody a home.
applied for it, they would say you don't have the right skin color,
Yeah.
which I think is racist.
Shy Joe brought it up. Let's bring it out, the elephant in the room then. Reparations, do you support or oppose?
No.
Go.
No,
Do you support or oppose?
oppose.
Shy Joe opposes. Main Joe.
Jeez, you got me here, man. This is fairly new to me. I haven't dwelled on it too much. Man, reparations, 100 years later, you know, I don't
The
know,
amount of
man.
time is irrelevant.
Did you ever have a
Is it-
slave?
is
Did
it-
your
is it a-
dad or grandfather
No,
or
and no.
great
That
grandfather?
doesn't matter either, Shy
To
Joe.
me, it does.
doesn't matter.
To me, it does.
So
I don't owe
gosh,
anybody
dude.
anything.
No, please focus on the business side of things. What does matter? Reparations. If any legislation is passed for reparations, it is going to divide this country even further.
Yeah,
Even further.
I really
Look
don't.
at the business end of things, please, listeners at home.
How about making-
What's the business end of
How about making the country great for everybody?
Everybody.
You know?
How about Andrew Yang then? Let's give
And
everybody
how about-
$1,000 a month.
Yeah, how about
But-
working on education so racism
Yes.
isn't such a huge fucking deal?
Yes,
And
well,
if
we
we
understand
pay
what
reparations
reason-
to black people in this country, well then, goddamn, we better get on board and start paying reparations to the American fucking Indians or Native Americans. Holy shit, do we
guys-
owe them some reparations or
Yes.
what?
Great
you know?
question. Great
That
question,
would be-
Main Joe.
That'd be
Main
first
Joe.
or second on my list.
Weren't there more Native Americans slaughtered
And
in
aren't-
our overtaking of this country
And aren't they
than
currently living in poverty, big time?
many are? And our friend W. Joe, the conga player, he asked this question. He said, okay, if you want to give money to descendants of slaves or descendants of Native Americans, how about those 19-year-old white Union soldiers who died on the battlefield trying to eradicate these very policies? Do they deserve reparations also? I don't know.
I think
It's a
it's-
great question.
And then, you know what?
Listeners,
Europe better start paying us reparations for sending our boys over there fighting their fucking war and knocking those Germans out. Not once, but twice. Come on, give us some reparations for that shit.
Yeah, who pays too? By the way,
Did they pay us back for that yet? I'm not sure if they did or not.
Anyway, I didn't see a farthing.
It's a deep fucking well, man.
It's
It
just
is.
so.
It goes
It's not
deep.
even deep. It is so ridiculous.
I think it's kind of ridiculous. I'm really surprised how much traction it's getting.
I'm struggling on my own,
Me too.
and now I have to help out
This is where
someone else.
I'm
And I never had any part of that. I think that is fucking ridiculous.
I think time does kind of matter. I mean, to a degree. I mean, it's not like it happened yesterday.
well, time wounds all heals.
I'm not
Who's
sure
the
what.
figure that
I don't
wounds
know,
all
man.
heals?
I might change my mind on this one, but for right
What they
now, I'm
should
thinking
do-
it's kind of
What they should do
far-fetched
is
and
go
kind of
find
out
every
there.
every family member lineage that had slaves, that made money with slaves.
George Washington, Thomas
Good-
Jefferson.
Yes. Yep.
Not John Adams.
And if they want, go do that and find their family members and say, you guys pay. You guys pay it. I'm not paying it. My grandfather was
Or
the son of a sharecropper in Michigan. He did the work.
yeah, my ancestors worked on the railroad across northern Midwest. You know.
I'm not paying any reparations.
Another reason that I do not support reparation payments is because there is no possible way to put a dollar figure on this.
Exactly.
can't.
Another
There's
good
no
point.
way.
Great point.
That's a
Great
very good
point.
point. I agree.
It is the biggest crime in history.
It is.
I mean, what ranks next is the Holocaust,
Holocaust.
and that
Or
is
maybe
like a
first.
Well-
distant second compared
second?
I think
in
so
terms of the
because
numbers
I
and
think
the
so
years
because
and
slavery
the-
didn't just happen in the U.S. It happened all over the world.
Well, that's again. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Canada, Brazil. It happened all over.
Yeah. Let's go.
terrible,
Let's get with
terrible
Andrew
thing.
Yang on
Terrible
this one.
thing.
Let's
And-
$1,000 a month and no reparations. Where
Yeah.
let's
Let's
just
help
start
everybody
building
out.
up.
Let's
Now,
raise everybody up.
let's raise everybody. Manjo, what are some of the
Now-
main benefits that have been predicted from Andrew Yang's universal basic income of $1,000 a month? What are some of the main benefits
One of the
that we're going to
things
see from that?
One of the things that intrigues me from this $1,000 a month, because I come from a small town, and yeah, the town is growing, but
For anyone 18 or
there's
older,
not a lot of
18 or older.
opportunity there. So if
Yeah.
you get out of high school, you're looking to the cities. You're looking for an education and a job in the city because there's not a lot in your small town.
Yeah.
But if everyone got $1,000 a month in this small town, it might help that economy out and help the small town survive a little
Invigorate.
better. You know,
Yeah, and people can pay some rent. And
that's
go to
that's one of
go
the
to
things that
movies.
intrigues me
Yeah.
about this idea.
Yeah, it is intriguing. I just wonder, like, where
How are we going to pay for it?
does this money
Here's the
come?
rip.
Well, he
Republican.
says it's coming from the people that are benefiting from automation, the companies, the corporations that are
That's one of them.
benefiting.
That's one of them.
One
Yeah.
of the sources of income or money for this program. I'm skeptical that there's enough companies benefiting from automation, quite frankly, that it would make much of a dent. He seems to think so. He's a very smart guy. He's an entrepreneur. He does the math, but
Andrew Yang.
I'm beginning to wonder. I don't know.
Oh, I want to ask you guys, point blank right now, and our listeners. I've read headlines that say that Google and Amazon and Apple and ExxonMobil and GM don't pay a dime in income taxes every year. Is this true, or am I reading fake headlines?
I have not heard anything to the contrary of that.
I have.
So
Thank you.
Netflix
Thank you.
paid nothing.
Is
This company that can raise their rates by $1 and make $200 million
I've
per
heard
month.
that Amazon has not paid $1 in taxes.
over the past year or many years? Who knows?
And Jeff Bezos is the richest man on the planet.
Yes. Okay. So now we know how we can pay
And
for $1,000 a month.
And some of his employees get government help because they don't make enough money to make ends meet.
Yes, and Walmart puts that in their hiring
Richest
brochures.
man on the planet.
Why is it when Republican candidates, there's been several, who was the gal that ran, she Trump said she was ugly, whatever her name was, in 2016.
I remember.
I can't remember her name right now.
I'll get in a minute.
But there's been others that just said simple tax code, 5-page.
Fiorina.
Fiorina, yes. Carly Fiorina.
Carly, yeah.
Thank you. A 5-page tax code across the board. We don't need a library full of tax code and loopholes. Make it the same for every corporation. 5 pages. Done.
Our tax code
just get it
is
right.
a travesty. It is ridiculous.
Our tax code goes after the middle class. We didn't answer the question, my friends. Shy Joe, Main Joe.
But
did GM not pay any taxes? Did Amazon not pay any taxes? Is this true? Or was I reading a fake headline?
I have not heard GM.
ExxonMobil.
I'm telling you that I have not heard any headlines to the contrary of these headlines we've been hearing recently about Amazon and Netflix and these other big tech companies paying nothing.
Uber. So now, $1,000 a month. I asked you the question earlier, Main Joe. Yes. What other benefits would it provide? What benefits have been speculated from such an arrangement? Teenage pregnancy would go down. There's a big one right there.
You think that would happen? Why is that?
No, these are just speculations that are going on by Andrew Yang's.
The Yang gang?
The Yang gang.
But they must have a reason as to why they think that. But if you don't know it, that's cool. Move on.
And I'm just trying to put an Easter egg in all your heads out there, listeners. Sure. Crime would go down. Unemployment would go down. Innovation would go up. Entrepreneurship would go up. You've got $1,000 to work with. Let's say you're a young couple, but you've got an 18 and a 19-year-old living in the same apartment. You've got $48,000 right there to work with. We trust you to do something positive with that. We trust you.
Well, like you've been kind of saying, my Joe, in previous podcasts and stuff, if we've got money, and this country has more money than any other country on the planet
in history,
let's invest in our people. Let's invest in our people.
Yep.
Our people have amazing potential.
Yep.
They're creative. They're go-getters. They work their asses off.
I've been looking at investing in a condo.
Is that isolationism?
No.
You just talked about our country's people.
Exactly right. Let's invest in Americans first. Americans.
That's part of my solution to the immigration issue. Is let's invest in Central America. I mean, if we get those countries healthier, then they're going to be less likely to get on a caravan and come here.
And want to come here.
And let's face it, our foreign relations hasn't really helped that situation at all in those countries. Yeah. I mean, we've got a lot of blood on our hands down there.
Where's
in Central
all the money
America,
going, Manjo? Where's all the fucking money in America? We are more wealthy now than we ever have been ever. Where's all that money going? Where's it going?
Part of it, I want to say, is corporate welfare. Am I wrong?
No. Subsidies to oil and gas and to the financial districts and to the pharmaceutical companies, And
not taxing others. That's kind of a form of corporate welfare, in my opinion. I mean, when Walmart has these bins set up on Thanksgiving so that their employees can have a Thanksgiving with a turkey, it's like, hello, shouldn't you be taking care of that corporation who can control how much they make per hour? It just drives me nuts.
Walmart.
I believe they're making a profit, are they not?
I believe they are profitable quarter by quarter. I do believe that's true. And, again, Main Joe, this might be a fake headline, but it's too good not to share, forgive me, that any new hire at Walmart is given a pamphlet that shows them the exact phone numbers and websites to visit to go and get welfare and food stamps and government provided medical care, and all these things.
Welfare.
Yeah, it's to the tune of about $7 to $10 billion a year. If that headline I read is correct, I don't know.
Again, it's tough to know. It's tough to know.
Let's take care of Americans first. How about that? Let's make sure every American has health care, will not go bankrupt because they get leukemia. They have great education opportunities on every street corner. Let's start there. Let's start with Americans.
And I know. I'm pretty sure Shy Joe won't necessarily agree with me on this one, but I really would love to get healthcare not tied to employment anymore. You know what I mean? I think that kind of needs to be separated.
It does. Yeah, I agree.
Because, man, it'd make it so much easier to switch jobs or start your new business.
Yeah.
Or, I think it would really help the economy in a way.
So would you be willing to make a compromise with Shy Joe that says, as long as it is affordable enough, I'll write a check every month, or I'll have it taken out of my paycheck every month? As long as it's affordable enough. Because in the mid-'90s, it was very affordable. It was really affordable back then. Not today. Not today. It's out of control today.
My dad was not a rich person, and he had his appendix rupture when I was probably at 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Because why? Because health insurance wasn't a thing back then. He had a pain in his side, but he doesn't stay away from doctors. Doctors aren't where you want to go, So he was like, I can get by this. It's just a pain. It'll go away. I probably lifted up a box, or something.
It's a little.
Turned out his appendix ruptured, and he went into the hospital. It was serious. They cut him open. They cleaned him up. It was infected and all that. So a hospital stay, a long recovery, but he was able to cover it. He could afford it.
He had insurance?
No insurance, dude. That's what I'm talking about. Healthcare, along with education, is going up exponentially, and wages and everything else is not. You know what I mean?
Saw a deal on YouTube.
So that's why health insurance is such an issue. It's because it's not because people can't afford it. It's because they can't afford it because the cost has just gone out the window, man.
There are many doctors out there now, fully licensed practicing doctors who are just putting a charge rate on their wall, saying you got a cold, you got a broken arm, you got a flu, whatever. This is how much we're going to charge you. No insurance involved whatsoever. And they're kicking ass. They're doing great.
Well, my wife does that. Every time she goes into a doctor's appointment, she says, I'm paying cash. I have no insurance. Give me your best rate. Yeah. She has to sit there and fucking negotiate with them every time she goes into a doctor's office.
Wrong. It's fucking wrong.
It just doesn't seem quite right. No.
She doesn't have an insurance?
She has insurance, but doesn't pay for anything. I mean, we have to pay like $10,000 in medical bills before any insurance will kick in. But yet we're paying $1,000 a month for insurance.
Yep.
That's the insurance companies, right? They're doing that to you?
What?
Making you pay that much?
And that happened after Obamacare kicked in, and the insurance companies, I don't know what happened to them, but I don't know if they decided, we can make more money this way, or because we have to cover everybody and all these pre-existing conditions, we have to raise it because of that. I'm not sure why the insurance companies raised their rates so crazily, but they did.
You're talking about the reaction was increased everyone's deductibles.
Mm-hmm.
Let's make it so no one can use their insurance until they've paid out of pocket $20,000.
And is that because they took such a hit because of Obamacare, or did they see an opportunity to make even more money?
They saw an opportunity. They've been doing that before Obama.
That's true.
Well before Obamacare.
Well, yeah, that's why they wouldn't. That's why they wouldn't cover my back.
We can't forget the main point right here is which political party supports for-profit health care. Which one of them is more likely to support for-profit health care? The Republicans.
Oh.
We know that. And that is
Why
an
do you
evil.
know that?
Because they try to destroy Obamacare.
The recent political things that have happened with Obamacare wouldn't support that at all.
I don't understand what you just said there. Please go ahead.
No, I think that the insurance companies and the hospitals are making more money than they ever did.
So that's what leads me to believe that
Obamacare.
They used Obamacare as an excuse, as a reason to jack up their rates even more and make even more money.
I just talked about the deductibles going
the
up.
Pharmaceutical companies are the only
year.
ads I ever see on YouTube anymore. The hospitals are the only billboards I ever see anymore. The only buildings I see going up are hospitals and insurance company buildings or banks.
They're making as much money as ever.
It seems like it. But yet they've like in some markets they've pulled out entirely because they couldn't make a profit there.
Well, and who wants to keep this same system in place? The Republicans.
Democrats.
No, the Republicans.
Are you kidding me?
Are you kidding me?
I think you're
rid of this thing.
Yeah, the Republicans
so
would
fast,
love to get rid of this,
fast.
dude. They voted to get rid of it 50 million times.
Yeah.
But yet, But yeah,
insurance? I don't understand.
No, Obamacare. They want to get rid of Obamacare.
No, I'm talking for-profit.
We're talking
insurance.
about our current healthcare system.
Mm-hmm. Republicans want to keep this
They
going
want
now.
to get rid of this and make it back to the old way. I assume. I really don't know.
No,
what they
they've
want to
already
go
done
to.
that, dude. They've already got it back to the way it was.
No, they haven't.
They got
worse.
rid of the individual mandate.
It's almost
and
worse
now
the way
it's
it was.
Skinny
expensive as shit.
replace did not even pass. It didn't. They have not got it back to the way it was. I would love. Oh my God, I would love it if it was the way it was.
When it was expensive as shit.
No, for him it was
No.
good, dude. For him it was good.
I'd
No,
have.
you're
I'd
right.
have
For
some money in my
myself, it
pocket.
wasn't good, and I lost jobs because of it. And for you, I don't know what it was like exactly, but probably wasn't good. But for him, it was great.
Yeah. Let's go back to the way it was before Obamacare. Let's go back to that. We already have, actually.
Absolutely.
Well, if-
Republicans
we
have done
If we did
They have
that,
done
my
Yeah.
premiums would be less, more would be covered, except for my back would not be covered, and a lot of my wife's health stuff would not be covered. But prescriptions would still be expensive.
I
So-
know why you're paying.
let's
out
go
of
back to
pocket.
that. Let's
Your
go back to that.
deductible is
Yeah.
through the roof, and you're not your deductible, but your.
So my wife goes in
yeah,
and
your
negotiates with the
deduct-
doctor and says, "Look, we don't have insurance. How much is it going to be really?" And they'll give us a better rate than they give insurance companies because that's how it works.
Should have been insurance reform. They should have reformed what insurance companies can and can't get away with.
Regulation, but I don't think Republicans
Thought
would have
they
let that
did,
pass.
to
either,
some
you
degree,
know.
they did do that.
Republicans
didn't they?
hate regulation.
They do. They do in general.
But I believe it's needed, and I think it's one
It
of the
would've-
primary reasons government exists as one of their primary purposes. I mean, because corporations are run by humans, and humans have greed, and it gets away from them. And that's why unions don't work all that great, because, again, humans run them.
Obamacare tried to rein it in a little bit, and then we got 2 years of the Trump administration.
Obama's whole deal, I mean, for me, at least from my perspective, one of the primary reasons for Obamacare was that pre-existing condition bullshit. I can't help it if I have a pre-existing condition. What do you mean you're not going to cover my hospital expenses? I'm paying insurance. I pay it every month. I've been paying it for years. But because I had a back injury before I signed up for your particular plan, because I had to switch jobs,
Where you had MS.
so you're going to tell me sorry?
Do you-
Well, no, the Republicans left that one alone, didn't they? They left that one in place. No pre-existing condition out. They weren't allowed. They didn't get rid of that one, did they? The Republicans.
That's one that they want to keep.
Yes. Yeah.
That's one part that they would like to keep as part of the skinny repeal or whatever it was. But
That's a
that
good
was-
term. I
that
like
was-
that. A
that was-
skinny repeal, which is
That's
kind of
they
what it
called
was.
back then.
That's what they
He
called
got,
it.
he got
what
rid
they
of the
called it.
mandate,
Yeah.
And it
and
was
they
it
kept.
was a disaster. The
Yeah, well, it is.
Republicans totally blew it because they went for repeal and replace, and then all those fuck sticks didn't have a replacement. So they're like, okay, we haven't figured out a replacement, so we're just going to go for a skinny repeal. We're just going to repeal it and then figure it out later. And that didn't pass either because they're a bunch of fucking idiots.
Yes, they are.
They are.
You're
They
right.
are.
You're right.
And that's why we.
Because the
still-
corporations
that's
don't
why
want
we
to
have
change. The
Obamacare
corporations
today.
are making bank.
And they're paying money to
And
lobbyists.
the corporations
It's,
are running the show, man.
Look at it this way: Democrats wanted most of them. No, most of them. Let me be fair. Not all of them. Most of the Democrats wanted to make sure everybody was covered. Most of the Republicans
a big
were
part of
against. Most of the Republicans were against that idea. That says it all. That is the bottom line right there. Most of the Democrats wanted to make sure nobody goes bankrupt anymore because their kid gets
You know
leukemia.
what? The only reason I can think of, to my knowledge, as to
You'll
why
just go bankrupt.
the
paying
Republicans
your
did not
premiums
want
instead.
Obamacare is because it was Obama. It was a Republican health care plan. That's why they have no
Well, it
other
was
plan.
modeled on
This
Romney,
is
yeah.
their plan.
It was modeled on that, and Nixon even had one way back in the 70s. He had
So-
an outline of a suggestion of a plan. Yeah,
Do the Republicans have any outline,
No.
any ideas,
No,
anything?
they were a fucking
even
shit show.
even
on
after
that issue.
Trump fairly recently said we're going to be the party of healthcare,
Yeah,
they still have nothing to.
He said we
offer.
have it.
Zero.
We have
Let's
all the
see
power in our pocket. We're going to repeal and replace this, and then he put people to work, and they were like, because Trump isn't going to sit there in his office and figure it all out.
Just think
he had people that didn't get the job done.
Just think if Republicans and Democrats
idiots.
could get together and say, look, we've got a president that wants to get shit done. He's going to sign anything that makes him look good. Let's do some stuff. You know?
Yeah.
They could really pass some amazing stuff.
It makes us beg the question of what will it take for people to switch parties?
Well, it begs the question, what's it going to take
Not
for the
much.
parties
Do
to
the
work
Republicans
together?
or the Democrats have a better path forward for health care for everybody? Which one of those two parties has may have a better path
Who's
forward?
trying? Who's got a new?
Bernie Sanders is trying.
Now that
Tulsi
the
Gabbard
last
is-
attempt was such a disaster, okay, well, who's got a new idea? Well, Democrats have got something to offer. I haven't seen anything from the Republicans yet.
Zero.
We have to see. We're early. We haven't even
Yeah,
had a Republican
it's true.
debate
It's
yet.
crazy early.
We'll
It's more than a
have
year
to see.
away.
We've had 2 years
I'm
of
sure the Republicans
control.
they'll have to have a healthcare plank in their platform, right? They're going to have
They
to
will
have
have to.
something.
They will.
have to.
The,
You're
the
right.
interesting
You're right.
thing is Andrew Yang stands out because he had an idea that was different than everybody else's, and
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard stands out to me as well.
She stands out to me too.
And
Yes.
but the rest are kind of getting lost, and I put Bernie Sanders in there, unfortunately, because all his great ideas from the last go round now
Getting
all
co-opted.
the rest of
They're
them are
getting
saying the
co-opted,
same
yep.
thing. So
But
he's
you know
not,
what?
He's not any different.
I
than,
think
than
he's
the rest.
okay with that. I
Is
really
he?
do. I think he's 74, 75 years old. He just wants he just wants these ideas out there, and he's
Yeah.
probably thrilled that they're catching on and that it could
He's
happen.
not special though. He's
No,
not unique.
but I think he's
not
okay with
unique
that.
anymore.
I think he's okay with that, dude.
Neither is Elizabeth Warren.
But I think Tulsi, as much as I like her because she's so pro-peace and anti-war,
I love her.
she's not catching on as much
As a
as I
member of the
hoped.
military, too, by the way. Pro-peace, anti-war, as a decorated member of our
Been there,
military.
done that, yeah.
She's
Just-
been into
Totally.
it.
Just
She
remember,
knows.
it's early.
It's so early. Yep.
I think Joe Biden got his ass kicked in that debate.
Yeah, totally. He's so out of touch.
He
He's spinning it
didn't
too
go
long.
down one. He
Just
didn't
like
go
Pelosi,
down
just like
one
Clinton,
notch,
just
though.
out of touch. Out of touch.
But he,
I think he did. I think he went down in the polls.
Not in the-
Then- well,
the polls don't
I
indicate.
think
The
they
polls,
lied.
I-
think that
how
people
much-
being polled
How much?
lied.
Yeah, how much you gonna put in the polls where they
Not
said that
much.
Hillary had a 90% chance of winning the
Yeah.
election and Trump wins and
Those polls are fucked up, aren't
yeah.
they?
And who answers polls? No one's ever polled me.
I've
Yes.
never had a poll. I've never been called.
Never.
And I think a lot of Republicans don't want to show their cards.
Yeah.
They're ashamed.
A lot of them don't
They're
want to
gonna be
admit
called
they're.
they're going to be called racists.
Yep,
And they're
yep.
going to be called bigots. And
Yep.
so they don't say.
I
They
wouldn't.
don't say they're voting.
I once
Republican.
had the IRS knock on my door. They were doing the census. I think it was 2010, and I read the thing, and it said this is totally voluntary. I said, great. I don't want to do it. Here's your paperwork. See you later. Bye bye. Knock on the door 2 days later. Census. This is voluntary, right? Yes. I don't want to do it. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Yeah.
And then they got like this supervisor, man. She was fucking intense. They
No
weren't gonna
way.
leave. Yes, they weren't gonna leave me
Are you
alone.
serious?
I am dead serious. They fucking harassed my ass until I finally said, "Fine, give me that fucking piece of paper."
shit.
I was like, "Go census my neighbor. What the fucking difference does it make if you're just spot checking anyway, right?" I mean, it's. And they were like, they would not
Spot
leave
check.
me alone.
Spot
Even though
check.
it said
Spot
on the
check.
paperwork it was voluntary, they would not let me opt out. And it pissed me fucking off.
Do you think we should get rid of the census?
No, it's vital.
I think
Count-
so.
To a
counting
degree.
I think so too.
is
I
vital.
don't
It
understand
must
the
happen.
argument to get rid of it
It
at all. I
it
don't-
contributes greatly to a cohesive union. Absolutely, the census is vital. Please, listeners, understand that it cannot be done away with.
I'm not convinced.
Excellent
So
debate.
if they knocked
Excellent
on your
debate.
door and it says right there, this is voluntary, you would say, oh, census, yeah, this is vital. I'm going to do it. Why is this so vital? All it does is use for fodder to make gerrymandered districts and keep people in office that have no business being in office because no one wants them there, but the district is so fucking gerrymandered that you can't fucking get them out.
You just raised two of the main oppositions that I also hold.
Me
for the,
too.
For the
And
census.
I agree with everything you
I
said there.
agree with everything you just said.
But-
the
But
census is vital.
because
So we know who we are as a country and where we live and
So-
who our people are and what races we are and
when you-
where people live.
why does that
And
matter?
When you oppose a tax or when you take away a tax, whichever way you're going, what is the dollar amount that you can assign to that? You gotta have some foundation to be able to calculate. You know, if we stop taxing on such and such, what's the cost of that? If we impose a tax on such and such, what's the cost of that? You have to know. You have to have some sort of basis.
So-
you have to.
Being that you guys think it's a vital thing, and right now there's a big debate, a big push. The Republicans want to put a question on the census that says, "Are you a citizen?"
Citizen, right.
How do you feel about that?
Well, not the Republicans. That's not fair. Trump does. Trump wants to do that.
Trump
Not
came
all-
up with that idea? I find that hard to believe. I think it's a
Not
Mitch
all the
McConnell thing,
Republicans.
dude.
Yeah.
That is
good question.
that is. I'm going to call you out on absolute bullshit right there. That question has been on the census forever. This is not a Trump idea.
It's not on the census now. They're trying to get it on the census.
No, citizenship is on the census.
So
it has-
what's
it
the
has
kerfuffle
always been
about
on
then?
the
Yeah,
census.
what's
the
big?
kerfuffle?
What's the big deal about that?
Because Democrats want it off.
That's not what I understand.
That's not the way I.
You
see
I
it.
understand
You
that.
better research it.
I understand they're
You know,
trying to get it
I mean,
on
Joe,
the
let's give
census.
Shy Joe a little bit of explanatory room here. So a question regarding citizenship has been on the census
Yes.
for decades, for a long time.
As long as we've had it.
And
I challenge
and
that. I'm going to
Trump-
look it up.
Go
So what
ahead.
did Trump want then? He wanted another one on there?
No.
Another?
I don't think Trump has anything to do with
He
it.
just wanted the same then. He
Yeah.
didn't want any changes at all.
Yeah.
Okay, we disagree right there. Listeners, we disagree right there. What was the whole controversy about then, Shy Joe?
In my mind, there is no. There is not.
Okay.
There is not a controversy about it. There's just keep it as is.
Trump wanted to keep it as is.
I don't think Trump had any fucking thing to do with the whole. This
You
has
didn't.
nothing
You
to do
didn't
with
see
Trump.
the press releases then. You didn't see the live footage of him talking about the question on the census about a citizenship. You didn't see any of that. Not one second of that footage.
no, I haven't. But I've seen other footage, and I've heard other people, and maybe I'm wrong. You can't believe everything you hear, but my understanding of it is, he doesn't want to get it removed. The citizenship question. He doesn't
That's
want
where we
it
differ then. That's where we
removed.
differ is from what I saw. From what I saw, he wanted to add a question to the census. He wanted to add a question that asked if you're a citizen.
Yeah.
Joe, do you
I remember seeing a video
It
of
was a-
AOC passionately arguing against this because
that's
of
not
the
the
wording
greatest.
of it. You know.
Main Joe, did
And
you
so
see the
if
same
it-
thing I saw?
If it was already on the census, then why would she be sitting there saying you can't do this? This
She
is
It was already there.
Maybe she wants to have it taken off.
that's not the impression I got though.
Not at all.
That is
Not
an
at all.
AOC stance, though.
Her stance
What-
was she
what
doesn't
is-
want it on the census.
That would be
Yes.
her stance.
That's her stance.
Yes.
And
The-
Trump
the-
does want it on
The
this.
question, yeah, the
Because
Republicans
it
do.
has been.
The question is it on there or not? And that's what we're not
Who
sure
lives
about. That's
here
what
and who's a
that's what
citizen
we're
and who's
not,
not.
agreeing.
No,
on.
who's the citizen? That's the question.
Who's the
are
citizen and
are
who's
you
not?
a citizen?
Yeah.
Are you a citizen?
Wouldn't we want to know?
What? By the way, what the fuck is the big deal about that?
Yeah, why is Trump making such a big deal out of it?
What is the big deal about...
Why is AOC making a big deal out of it?
Great question. Why are they making such a big deal out of this?
There's no... I mean, that's just...
Don't we want to know?
I think this is where we get caught up in the media. I've said this to my buddy, my Joe, before. I don't think these people work that much in Washington D.C.
Such a cush job. It must be.
They're only like what? They're never sequestered. They're just they have to show up to report for a few weeks every year. They don't.
Shy Joe, their job is easier than making a podcast, isn't it? It's easier than getting together with your friends and making a podcast on a Sunday.
They're not
working harder.
Yeah.
We're working harder.
They don't even debate anymore with the opposite side or people with differing opinions.
They get together every once in a while, but the problem is we have 8 channels of 24/7.
A lot of time to fill.
Yeah. A
lot of clicks to farm.
What if we went back to the days of Walter Cronkite and 3 TV channels?
Yeah, let's do that.
Can you even fill an hour of political news?
Good point, dude.
Could you fill a whole
hour? Before we drift too far, let's remember the debate we just had, or the discussion we just had. Main Joe, you and I were of the opinion that Trump wanted to add a question to the census, and Shy Joe was of the opinion that he wanted to just keep that question in place.
He wanted to leave the census alone.
He wanted to leave the census alone as it is. You and I...
With the citizenship question on there already.
Yeah.
It's been on there forever.
So you and I feel he wanted to add that question.
I believe that question
Shy Joe
got removed back in the 50s or 60s, I want to say, and they want to put it back on. It was on there before, but now they want to get it back on there. That's what I understood. That's what I understood. So I don't know.
Who knows what's correct here?
Hopefully we'll look it up and we'll get you that information in the description box below there, listeners. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been we got very political. Not a lot of humor in these segments tonight, but that's okay because, humor comes in its own points. Exactly.
This wasn't a humor thing.
Exactly.
We talked some deep political
things. We did, and that needs to happen. I mean, because it affects lives. I think,
it does.
Healthy conversation. That's
who
what
was
makes
it?
Our country great, really.
Yeah, you were saying that some people think it's just political theater, and and it's just better just to check out. Well, part of me agrees. It is kind of political theater, but it affects lives, and that's why I can't check out and just totally quit paying attention.
It does affect lives. It does.
And your vote matters.
Do your best to figure out what's fake news, what's bullshit. Go research many sources. Look up
multiple sources is important.
Different ways of verifying what you just heard that you want to be true, but may not be. Go challenge yourself. Yeah. Go challenge yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you, Main Joe, Shy Joe. What a great segment. What an awesome segment.
I enjoyed it.
Me too. Thanks, guys. Thanks, my friends.
Yes.
My 2 close
good
friends.
Yes.
No matter what.
That's right, man.
How long was that?